Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into another fascinating book.
Definitely. Always up for a good deep dive.
All right, so today we're taking on The Innovator's Solution by Clayton Christensen and Michael Rayner.
Oh, classic.
Absolutely. And it's all about figuring out why so many companies,
Yeah.
struggle to achieve that lasting success.
It's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, and, when I was reading this, I kept thinking about how many businesses just chase growth
Right.
in ways that kind of sabotage their long-term prospects.
It's like they're driving with faulty GPS or something.
That is such a great analogy.
Yeah.
And the book actually hits you with a pretty stark reality check
Yeah.
right off the bat, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It says only 1 in 10 companies
Really?
actually manages to keep that profitable growth going over the long haul.
Wow.
Pretty low odds.
That is pretty low. It makes you wonder why that is.
Right, like what's going on there?
Yeah, what's the problem?
And, they actually use AT&T as an example to kind of illustrate this whole thing.
Okay, interesting.
So, after the whole breakup of the local telephone services,
Right.
AT&T was under, immense pressure to find new growth avenues.
Had to find something.
Right. And so they made these massive acquisitions, like NCR. You remember the computer maker?
Uh-huh.
Spent billions,
Wow.
but it just didn't pan out.
Didn't work out.
Nope. They ended up selling it for way less than what they paid.
Oh.
So it's a real cautionary tale,
It is. It makes you think twice.
But the question is, what's the root cause of these missteps?
Exactly.
And, the book points to something called the innovator's dilemma.
Ah, yes, I've heard of that.
Yeah. So what is this innovator's dilemma all about?
Well, it's this idea that successful companies often get blindsided by new disruptive innovations.
Okay.
And it's because they're doing so well with what they already have.
They're too focused on their current thing.
Exactly. They're laser focused on those most profitable customers.
Right.
Refining existing products, doing what they know.
But that laser focus, it's almost like it creates a blind spot.
It does. It does. You get tunnel vision.
Right. You become so good at serving your current market that you miss the signals
Yeah.
of a change coming from somewhere else.
That's a good point. Yeah.
From below almost.
Exactly. Yeah. You miss what's brewing under the surface.
And they give a great example in the book about the steel industry.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So you had these integrated steel mills, right?
Uh-huh.
Dominant for decades.
Yeah.
But then they got disrupted by
Bye.
minimills.
These are mills. Okay.
Yeah, and the minimills, they started out producing rebar,
Rebar. Okay.
which is, a low-margin product.
Right.
Not really interesting to the big players.
Not fancy enough.
Exactly. But the minimills had this simpler, more flexible process,
Okay.
which allowed them to make money, even at those lower prices.
Interesting.
So they found a foothold, right?
They did.
In this market, the incumbents didn't even care about.
Smart. Going where the competition isn't.
Right. So the question is, did they just stay there?
Yeah. Did they get comfortable?
At the low-end content,
Good question.
what do you think?
I'm going to guess no.
You're right.
Okay.
They didn't stay at the low end. They actually,
What did they do?
they gradually improved their tech,
Okay.
and they started moving up market.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, targeting that next least profitable segment,
Clever.
right, for the integrated mills.
Yeah.
And each time, the established players, they retreated.
Really? They didn't fight back.
They kind of ceded that ground.
Wow. A strategic retreat.
Right, like they kept moving up market, giving up territory, until they'd lost a big chunk of the overall market.
That's wild. So it's like a slow motion takeover almost.
It is, and it's not unique to steel.
Oh, so this happens in other industries too?
Yeah, we see it in retail with, discount stores.
Oh.
Like Walmart disrupting the department stores.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Right, by focusing on lower prices and appealing to a different customer base.
Right.
So what's the takeaway here for our listeners?
Yeah, what should we be learning from this?
Is it just beware the low end?
Right. Is that it?
Or is there a more nuanced understanding of disruption here?
I think there's got to be more to it than that.
You're right. What the book really highlights
Yeah.
is that disruptive innovation is not just about having a cheaper product.
It's about more than that.
It's about developing a whole business
A
model
whole model. Okay.
that can work at the low end,
That can thrive down there.
even if it seems totally unattractive
Right.
to the established players.
Interesting. So you're playing a different game entirely.
Exactly, and recognizing
Yeah.
that low-end foothold could eventually challenge the whole industry.
That's the long game.
It is. It's about seeing that bigger picture.
The long game of disruption. I like it.
Right. And to help you see that bigger picture,
Yeah.
they lay out 3 crucial litmus tests
Litmus tests.
to assess the disruptive potential of an idea.
Okay, that sounds useful. Tell me more about these litmus tests. All right, let's break down these litmus tests. Where do we start?
Okay, so the first test is all about new market disruptions,
New market. Okay.
and it asks 2 key questions.
All right, hit me.
First, does it target a population, a big one,
Okay.
that couldn't access or afford
Right.
this product or service before?
Makes sense.
And the second question is, does it make that product or service
Yeah.
more convenient or accessible?
So basically opening up a whole new market
Exactly, like it was untapped before.
because of cost or access, right?
Exactly.
Like, what's a good example of that?
Think about early personal computers.
Oh, yeah.
They were disruptive
Right.
because they brought computing power
Yeah.
to individuals, small businesses
Right.
who could never have afforded those massive mainframe computers.
Oh, that's true. The big corporations use those.
It wasn't just about the technology itself, right?
Right.
It was about who could use it.
Who had access? That's a good point.
Okay, so that's new market disruption.
All right, got it.
Now, the second test
Okay, number 2.
is all about low-end disruption.
Low end. All right.
And the questions here are there customers at the low end of the market
Okay.
who would be happy with a good enough product?
All right. Good enough, so not top of the line.
Exactly, but at a lower price.
Right, the trade-off.
And can you build a profitable business model
Yeah. Does it make business sense?
around those customers?
Interesting.
What do you think? Any examples come to mind?
Well, what about, like, budget airlines?
Oh, perfect example.
They're not fancy, but they get you there.
Right. They tapped into a huge market of people who were price sensitive,
Right.
but still wanted to fly.
Yeah,
And they built a profitable model around it.
exactly. So low-end disruption works.
Okay, so we've got 2 tests
2 down?
to identify opportunities for disruption.
Right, but I bet there's a catch.
There is one more test, and it's crucial.
Okay, lay it on me.
It asks, is this innovation disruptive
Mm-hmm.
to all the major players?
All of them. Oh, that's interesting.
Because if even one big incumbent
Yeah.
sees it as a way to, like, improve their existing stuff,
Their own offerings, right?
they'll jump in.
And squash the competition.
Yeah, it's tough to compete with those big guys.
That's the reality, isn't it?
And they give this example of Xerox and HP.
Oh, the printer companies.
Yeah, with inkjet printers.
Okay, so could Xerox have disrupted HP?
That's the question the book poses. It would have been really, really difficult.
Why is that?
Well, HP already had such a strong position.
Right, they were the incumbents.
And a bunch of other factors.
Okay, so it's not enough to just have a disruptive idea.
No, you have to consider
Yeah.
the whole landscape, right?
The competitive landscape.
And how those big players might react.
That's a good point.
The dynamic process, you know?
Like a chess game, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Every move matters.
You got to think several steps ahead.
And one of the most important parts of that strategy
Yeah.
is your business model.
Ah, right. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, how disruption isn't just about a cheaper product.
It's about a whole different way of doing business.
Right, a model that can work at that low end.
Yeah. Can you talk more about that?
Sure, so a disruptive business model, it lets companies make good profits.
Even at low prices, right?
Right, even at the low prices you need to win those markets.
It's a different game. Yeah.
It's fundamentally different
Interesting.
from the models of those established companies.
Which are all about what? Higher margins?
Exactly, they're optimized for that.
I see. Okay.
But when those companies try to move down market,
Yeah.
they often struggle
Really? Why is that?
because their costs are too high.
Their structure is built for a different world.
Right, their whole system's different.
Okay. So you need a dedicated model for disruption.
That's the key takeaway.
That makes sense, but how do you actually build one of these models? That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is, and unfortunately there's no,
Like bullet.
no magic formula
Make a laugh.
because every market's so different.
Right. Every situation is unique.
But the book does emphasize this one thing,
Okay, what's that?
aligning your resources
Okay.
with your goals.
So like putting your money where your mouth is, basically.
Exactly, and established companies,
Yeah.
they often allocate resources based on,
What their best customers want.
right, what those profitable customers are asking for.
Makes sense. Keep the people who are paying happy.
But that leads to, like,
Incremental improvement.
yeah, instead of big leaps forward,
Right. You get stuck in that rut.
it's that dilemma again, right?
You're good at what you do, but it might not be what you need to be doing.
Exactly. And you miss out on the next big thing.
So how do you break free from that? How do you allocate resources the right way for disruption?
Well, they suggest something pretty interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
Creating separate units.
Separate units, like within the company.
Yeah. Or even spin-offs
Wow, okay.
dedicated to these disruptive businesses.
So they have their own space to operate,
Exactly. They need that freedom.
to do their own thing.
Right. Outside the constraints of the core business.
Interesting, makes
It's
sense.
good to develop those unique models.
Right, and go after those underserved customers
It's like a mini startup.
inside a big company, yeah.
Exactly. And they actually give a good example of this.
Oh, yeah. Who do they talk about?
IBM.
IBM, okay.
They dominated the PC market
Right, back in the day.
by creating this separate unit.
So they didn't try to integrate it with their mainframe business?
Nope. They kept it separate.
Smart move, probably would have stifled it otherwise.
Exactly. And Hewlett-Packard did something similar.
Yeah.
Inkjet printers.
Oh, okay.
Separate division focused on that new tech.
So they didn't try to shoehorn it into their laser printer business.
Right. That wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
So I guess the takeaway is
Yeah, what's the lesson here?
disruption often needs a different structure.
A different way of organizing, yeah.
Something that allows for like agility,
Experimentation.
trying new things,
Right, because what works for,
sustaining innovation.
yeah, might not work for disruption.
Two different beasts. It makes me think back to that statistic,
Oh, yeah, the 1 in 10.
only 1 in 10 companies achieving that sustained growth.
Daunting, isn't it?
It is, but
There's hope.
the book gives us a path forward
Lay it on me.
by understanding disruption,
Yeah,
recognizing the potential in your industry,
seeing those opportunities.
and creating the right model.
Capitalize on it all.
You can increase your chances of success.
So it's not just about surviving, it's about winning.
It's about thriving in a world where disruption is constant.
It's the new normal, right?
It is. So we have to adapt.
Absolutely.
This has been a fantastic deep dive.
I've learned a lot. Thanks for having me.
What would you say is the most important advice for our listener?
Don't be afraid to, shake things up.
Yeah, just the status quo.
Yeah, whether you're in a big company or starting your own thing,
Keep your eyes open.
always be looking for those opportunities, those unmet needs.
Ask yourself, where are the incumbents vulnerable?
Yeah, and how can I build a model that actually works?
That's what it all comes down to.
Those are the questions to ask, for sure.
And if you want to dive even deeper,
Yeah, what should they do?
pick up a copy of The Innovator's Solution.
It's a classic for a reason.
It really changes the way you think about business.
Makes you see the world differently.
And remember, the world is constantly changing.
That's the only constant, right?
So embrace it, learn from it.
And use it to your advantage.
Stay curious out there.
Keep disrupting.